We are here today with a very special Christmas edition of, well, me and my dad talking. I don't know if you saw the video before, but this is my father who is visiting from Slendria, not with me. He is currently exploring the UK and enjoying winter and Christmas there. But his name is Toldtyke, so if I for some reason refer to him as that, that's who it is. But yes, hello!
Hello, Esty. Yeah, I'm just wandering around seeing how Christmas goes these days and how it's changed.
Well, that's one thing that we were talking about, and what we wanted to talk to everybody else about is how we
Mm,
experience Christmas in our traditions, but also just traditions in the UK in general, because they do go back quite a way.
they do. Well, you would imagine that Christmas goes all the way back a couple of thousand years, really.
Yeah, because supposedly something happened back then.
Hmm, yeah,
But,
which we're still celebrating today.
yep.
Yeah,
But it's even further
although,
than that, isn't it? The celebrations in Britain. But not
well,
about
the idea
Jesus,
of,
but yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. If you go back a long, long time, they were celebrating just the winter solstice and the idea that the sun or the day had become short and was now going to start getting longer again with more sunshine. So the winter solstice is what they were celebrating. And that certainly goes back. In fact, the Romans had their celebration, Saturnalia, and the people before the Romans, I'm sure, had all their celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
And the oldest one I know about is 4,500 years ago, when we can prove that they were actually having a party at Christmas. Although, of course, it wasn't Christmas.
They were having a part. Who was having a party at Christmas 4,000 years ago?
Well, we don't know who they were, but they were Neolithic people and they were building Stonehenge. So they
Oh,
might have been celebrating building Stonehenge, but we know that they had a massive party because they found all the bones of all the pig roasts that they had. And
oh,
already they've found 500 pigs' bones. And
500.
500 pigs feeds an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
500. So that must have been a pretty big party for quite a long time. And you have to imagine, because they were really people like us, that they just did all the same singing and dancing and partying that we do.
Yeah.
So although things have changed in how we do it, I'm sure it's the same thing, really.
Yeah. I would always like think about what it'd be like to go back in time and just
Mm,
be in that kind of situation, just watching how they act compared to us. I'm sure they well, I think maybe they were less. I don't mean to say like civil, like they were lesser, but I assume that they. What would happen maybe if someone just decided to stab someone else? Like, would it have been as big a problem, maybe? Or I don't know when laws against murder came in.
yeah. Often there were no police in those days, so it's hard to report a murder. You either had to deal with it yourself or run away.
But hopefully, I was about to say there wasn't a lot of murdering going on at that party, but there were 500 pigs that were
500
roasted.
pigs, and I worked out that it's probably around 10,000 people, um, which is a lot. And they even know, these clever scientists, they know that the pigs didn't all come from that area. Some of them have been brought all the way down from Scotland and the Orkneys, and some from Wales, and some from, they think, Europe as well. So it wasn't just local people meeting up. These were people from all over the country meeting up. So that would have
Wow.
been a very, very big party. And I think you're right. Probably there would have been arguments with people who didn't agree with things. But you would hope that the alcohol consumption would have been under control, like it is always at Christmas. Mm.
Especially in the UK. Some things don't change, I guess. But
No, no.
I'm really curious about how they sent out the party invites. If people came from all over the
Yeah,
United Kingdom.
I don't know. I think we would have to assume. Yeah. Um, we know they could communicate with each other, so I'm guessing they just said, "Hey, Fred, solstice, I'll see you at Stonehenge,"
Yeah, pass it on.
um, and they turned up. But it must have been planned because obviously they couldn't get on the train and go down from Scotland to Stonehenge with their pigs ready for the feast.
Yeah.
They would have had to have taken them down either walking them down
Yep.
or by boat around the coast. So to all arrive at the same time, it must have been a really well organised party.
Yeah.
And we think we're pretty good these days at getting parties organised, but that would have taken some organising.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they made it such a big party, just to make it worth the effort.
Mm. And
Half.
it probably went on for quite a long time. I'm sure it wasn't a
Yeah.
one evening job. It would have been a week or two.
I was
And they
thinking that.
probably had their version of party games. What
Yeah.
they would have been, really.
Well, you mentioned something before, and I'm wondering if they would have done that at this party, because we were talking about carol singing, and I thought wassailing was carol singing, but my dad said, well, it's also, what is it again? A way to thank the trees?
It's giving good health and saying thank you to the apple trees because they think it would have happened all over the country, but in particular down in the southwest where they make the cider. And so they would go and at midnight they would stand around the tree and they would sing a thank you carol to the tree. And they would also pour this year's cider onto the tree roots, all of it hoping, of course, that that would make the tree healthy for the following year and they get lots of apples for the next lot of cider.
Oh.
There's a bit of an alcohol theme going on here, isn't there?
It's like, oh yes, in England when they worshipped the old gods. No, they worshipped trees, apple trees.
Apple trees and the cider. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it started. That's what wassailing began as.
Yeah.
But then I think the idea that you were wishing good health, I think I'm right in saying wassail means good health. So I think that probably just joined on to the idea of carol singing.
Yeah.
I really don't know how new carol singing is. I don't think carol singing is that old.
I can't remember.
I'm guessing
I looked
16,
it up.
17.
I looked it up. I think 1700s maybe, because I think that's when Silent Night was written, because when I saw that it was written in Austria first. That's why it's an Austrian song, which I didn't know. It's I think that was like 17 something, and it was translated into English quite a bit after that.
Rings a bell.
But one thing I found out about carols, Christmas puns. But one thing that I learned about carol singing is that they're not sure if carol derives from the French carole or the Latin carula, which means circular. It's like because what it used to be carol in the pagan times or something was like a song and a dance they did in a circle, and then they again, just like a lot of stuff that we associate with Christmas now, they were doing all the way back in pagan times. The caroling was the same thing, but it wasn't going around singing like God rest you merry or whatever it is. So something like that. I'm not good at explaining things. But
no, I think you're right. I think it was the idea of singing it going around the circle as well, so that they were singing the verses and it being chanted around.
Yeah.
And that was the original carol. But I think the caroli is also a dance.
Caroli, yes, like a circular dance. It's I wrote it down. I made notes. It says so caroli is a circle dance and song. I'd put like a circle dance and song, whatever that might mean. My notes made sense at the time. Yeah, but
I think what it shows is that an awful lot of what we do now isn't really a modern way of doing it. It's really an ancient way that people have just modified and added on to.
Yeah.
So although we think of Christmas now as being something that we got from Dickens, we've talked about Dickens before.
Yeah.
Things like this were obviously happening before Dickens. Dickens was just very good at bringing it all together and painting such a wonderful picture of the happy Christmas meal together that kind of became the model for how people want to do it.
Yeah, Dickens was a massive inspiration, I think, when it comes to that picturesque Victorian Christmas. He
Mm,
mastered this ability to, we spoke about it before, that, in England we like ghost stories at Christmas. And Dickens made, well, A
yes.
Christmas Carol, a fantastic ghost story, at the same time as bringing together the
Mm,
cold, represented by Ebenezer Scrooge, but then at the end, it's so warm and comforting. It really does just
yeah.
symbolize Christmas kind of thing. And talking of that, that reminds me, actually, I'd forgotten about this. My mom used to read A Christmas Carol to me every Christmas when I was younger. So
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I
I
didn't know
remember
that. Yeah.
because I remember falling asleep a lot. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I do really
I
like
must have
that
been out
story.
doing
Doing you what? Sorry.
my Christmas research in the pub.
Oh, yeah, that was nice. But caroling itself is, I love carols. I really love
Mm,
Christmas carols. It's really sets the mood for me for Christmas, and it's another tradition of our household with mom again. And
mm.
mom makes Christmas in our household, doesn't she? Really, like now we've all
It
left.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, now we've all left the dragon's nest, myself and my siblings.
Mm.
We try to recreate the Christmas that mom, or I mean you too, dad, obviously, but mommy's really into Christmas, and we try to recreate what she's done. And one thing that she does every Christmas is watch carols at King's College in Cambridge. Uh,
Carols at King's. Yeah.
Cows at King's,
Yeah.
yeah. And it is so beautiful and also quite haunting listening to. So I highly recommend
Mm.
to anyone who's listening to this to just search Carols at King's College and watch like a previous year or something and listen to them sing because it's beautiful. But it's just Christmas
Mm.
time. So,
It just creates that mood, doesn't it, as well? So if you've got the candles burning and the lights flickering and the glow from the fire, and then you have the carols playing, it
yeah,
is just that full ambience that
yeah.
you need. And that's even before the Christmas Day meal, when all the
Hmm.
food comes out,
Yeah.
or even before Christmas Eve, in fact,
Yeah.
when it kind of gets real, doesn't it? Before then, it's decorating the house and creating the atmosphere, but then it gets very real by Christmas Eve, and the final preparations are made,
Yeah.
and you were all sent to bed early or tried to try and get you all out of the way.
Yeah, otherwise I'll be peeping around the top of the stairs like, is that Santa down there? Or
Mm,
of course, like I don't, for some reason I miss this. Of course, Santa is quite a big tradition as well. Santa is very
yeah.
popular in the UK. You can find him in every, mall. Not quite sure how he does it,
Mm.
but he's
Yeah, there's
there.
always a Christmas grotto somewhere with the elves,
Yeah. But
and that
yeah,
was
the
part of
Christmas
Christmas when they're going to
cars.
see Santa and getting the present.
Yeah. Yeah, we get taken to see Santa, and you can have your picture taken
Mm,
with him, or you tell him what you want for Christmas, and he gives you a little present. And oh, that's so
yeah.
heartwarming remembering. That was so good. Now that I'm older, when I was in England, my only real like, oh, there's Santa was apart from figurines around the place was Santa's sleigh was driven around the streets where I'm from every Christmas with music playing and people
Mm,
ringing bells to collect
yeah.
donations for charity. Has he been yet?
Mm. He's been, yes, he was actually quite early this year. It must be over a week ago now that he came round.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I missed that.
unfortunately, no snow on the ground. That's always it's always better if there's snowing on the ground or something of that kind. But
Yeah.
I think it was raining.
Oh,
Which that's English weather for you. So
talking of snow on the ground,
yeah, so we said
one
before. Mm,
go on.
it's just we said before about that being Dickens, haven't we? That the snow really is something which is quite rare at Christmas in England. But Dickens gives the impression that snow at Christmas was normal. I think
I
you kind of expect Christmas to have snow.
Doesn't it depend where you are? Because Yorkshire always seemed to snow. 'Cause
Yeah, certainly the more north you go, you're going to get more snow.
that's
But I think I'm right in saying, and you'll know this, I'm sure, that Dickens, when he was a child, he saw lots of snowy Christmases. And that's why for him, that was the perfect picture of how Christmas should be, with the snow
mm,
on the ground and the children singing carols.
yeah, and it certainly feels that way. So that's how I
Mm,
always imagine Christmas. But I was remembering,
yeah.
wasn't there one time when we were up in Yorkshire for Christmas, and the car was like rolling backwards down the steep streets because of the ice and the snow. I just remember just trying to
Mm,
navigate up that street.
yeah.
Gosh.
If people don't know Yorkshire, Yorkshire can be quite hilly and does get quite a lot of snow. So, like you say, there were times when the car was meant to be going forwards, but was actually going backwards. You remember going over the moors when you couldn't really even see where the road was because the whole landscape was just covered in snow,
Yeah.
and you had to kind of guess where you thought the road
Yeah.
might be,
Hope
and
for the
head
best.
for the lights in the distance. Yeah,
Yeah. But that's
or
the
even in the fog.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because even if you're heading for the lights in the distance of a car that's navigated it before you, the roads on the moors aren't just straight all the time. So if you just think, oh, I'll just drive straight over
No,
here, you're probably
no.
driving over the moors rather than
I,
doing the
I've
weaving.
done that. I'm sure I have. When I thought, yeah, when I've been trying to turn right or turn left, and I've turned too soon,
Yeah.
and you realise suddenly that you're not getting much grip on the tyres anymore, and it's because you've left the road.
But Yorkshire is
Yeah.
definitely, and I'm sure you have stories for this as well. But Yorkshire is definitely a Christmassy place for me. And one of my main
Mm, yeah.
memories of Christmas up there was going to the Chris Tingle. And if you don't know, a Chris Tingle is an orange with a candle shoved in it, four cocktail sticks with sweets on, and a ribbon, usually red but sometimes white,
Mm,
wrapped around it. You know, Dad, but just in case people listening don't know.
yeah.
And it actually originated in Germany but became quite popular in England. And I went to one with some of my family that were, on Earth at the time. And it was good. It was so Christmassy. We were in church. We were carrying our Christingles around, and then we sat down in the pews, and and then my mum was sat behind me. And I had leaned back in the pew, and if you remember this, and she set my coat on
Yeah.
fire. So there was
Yeah.
disaster at the Christingle. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember that.
The dangers of naked flames in a church.
I
Yeah.
know. When
Mm.
everyone's bundled in like
And
very flammable clothing.
yeah, yeah. No, Chris Tingles were good because again, it was that atmosphere, wasn't it, inside the building? It was
Yep.
a church building as well. At that time of the year, it's dark outside, and you got all the lights on as well, the candles burning.
Yep.
Lovely atmosphere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because England gets a lot of slack for how cold it can be and dark and stuff, but at Christmas, that's what I want. I don't want bright
Mm.
sunny days and stuff like that. I want to be,
No.
in the church singing the carols, with the
Yeah.
candles lit everywhere and looking outside. It's like pitch black, and you step out and it's chilly and you wrap up warm. That is something like that's quite important to me to experience at Christmas. I have to have those cold days, or I feel like I
Mm.
haven't really had my winter, my Christmas. It's my favorite season. So, about the traditions you had in Yorkshire, though.
Well, yeah. Um, some strange ones now, really. I think they still happen now and again, but not like they used to. We had in Yorkshire the idea of a dark-haired man who was meant to cross the threshold and bring luck to the family, but it had to be a dark-haired man, and it had to be a dark-haired man carrying a piece of coal. I've never quite worked out why the coal, apart from, I suppose, coal equals fire equals heat. I don't know. And of course, in Yorkshire, there were lots of coal mines, so maybe it was easy to come by. And then there's another one called first footing, which just meant that somebody had to go out of the house before midnight and then knock on the door and come into the house. And that was the first foot over the threshold in the new year, sometimes at Christmas, and wish the family good luck. And that was another good luck idea. And both of those must be very old traditions, but I really don't know where they came from. The idea of knocking on doors and coming over the threshold.
It sounds like something that you'd come up with when you were drunk with your friends. Like, I want to have a really good year next year. You grab a piece of coal and you go outside. It's like, what's he doing? I don't know. Let's just go with it. And then they all start doing it, and then their friends start doing it, and then their friends start doing it. It's so strange.
I wonder why it had to be a dark-haired man. A dark-haired man with coal. It sounds like there's some kind of symbolism there, but I'm not sure what the symbolism is. It's an odd one.
Yeah, I really don't know. Unless, like...
That's a strange one.
I don't know. Yeah, that is weird.
Do you remember the mince pies being left out for Santa?
Yes, I do.
And we also... And the carrots that were left out for the reindeer as well.
We had to make sure Rudolph
on the basis that they needed their food to help on their journey.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens much now, because when I was young, we had an open fire, so it was easier to convince me that Santa actually came down the chimney and left the reindeers on the roof. But with modern houses with central heating and the fireplaces blocked up or having a gas fire in them, I suspect an awful lot of people now don't bother with the mince pie and the carrot anymore.
Santa's coming through the radiator.
Well, yeah, it doesn't quite work, does it? I've always thought it was odd how that idea came around, because you get the idea that Santa came down the chimney. Why? Why did he come down the chimney? Well, it must have been because the doors were locked, and that was how he got the presents in. It's meant to come from St. Nicholas throwing coins down the chimney and them getting caught in stockings, and that's how the idea of these coins in stockings came about.
I've never heard
Nobody's
of that.
really explained why St. Nicholas was climbing on the roof.
Yes,
Totally throwing coins down the chimney.
Why was St. Nicholas
why on the
standing
roof?
on the roof?
Yeah. And then somebody must have said, well, how did he get up there? You know, on all these different roofs. And then they said, well, he must have flown up there, because obviously he was a saint, he could do miracles. But no, they invented a sleigh being pulled by reindeer instead.
That is odd.
Which makes sense, North Pole reindeer.
Yeah, I guess. It makes more sense than St. Nicholas standing on a roof and throwing coins down the chimney.
Well, yeah. Lots of roofs, because he must have gone from roof to roof.
Was he jumping between them? Or just skipping along across the roofs?
Well, yeah. I suppose in olden days, the buildings were close together, and maybe it was from Turkey, wasn't it, St. Nicholas? I was going to say in Jerusalem, the flat roofs were all joined together. But in Turkey, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, the idea was he was on the rooftop throwing coins down there. And that's the idea of putting out the mince pies. For him to do that. But of course, for us, the main use of the front room where the fireplace was that's where all the presents were laid out.
The present room. I remember the present room. We'd all so I have 3 older siblings. They're all boys. I have, all brothers. And we would be like, not anxiously, but like eagerly waiting for my mom and dad to come down from their bedroom, and we'd all be in my brother's room. And once they came down, we'd all like fly down the stairs and then like open the door, and we had a sofa against the right wall and then a big chair towards the like other side wall. And my presents would be in their own chair because I was special. But my brother's presents were all on the couch lined up. And then there were lots of presents under the tree too. So yeah, there were presents everywhere. Christmases were always great.
and the floor was absolutely covered in wrapping paper that you tore off and threw
Yes.
on the floor. Yeah. And then we had to be really careful you hadn't thrown away something important.
Yeah.
I remember doing that. I remember checking the wrapping paper that there was nothing left inside it because it was all torn off so quickly.
Do you remember
Yeah.
when one of my brothers, you'll know which one, had a present and he was in a cardboard box and he was using scissors to get into it and he was so
Mm,
excited he cut in between his finger and his thumb on that little bit of skin. Do you remember that?
yeah.
It was the same brother that hit
Yeah.
himself in the head with a sledgehammer.
I was just going to tell you that story. Yeah. You did that too. Yeah. It's the unlucky brother.
But that made for a dramatic Christmas. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely remember the
Yeah.
presents, and we had I'm
Yeah.
not
You
sure if
had all the presents down there and under the Christmas tree, more presents again. And then before you even came down, you had the stocking, which was full of little gifts, wasn't it? Little puzzles and other presents and things of that kind.
yep,
And they were on your bed.
yeah. So
And
we
I'm trying
had
to think what was in there now. I know you always got fruit. Was it an orange you always had?
yes. So there was always at the bottom of every stocking every year there was a pound coin, there
Yeah.
was an orange, and there
Hmm.
was a Terry's chocolate orange.
That's it. Yeah.
And then there were like the other things
Yeah.
like nail varnishes and stuff like that,
And
and
heads of
puzzles,
sweets and things
toys,
of that kind.
sweets, yeah,
Yeah.
chocolates. So yeah, and we once I
Mm.
got the stocking because I'd wake up in the night obviously, and it was the most magical feeling. You would go to sleep and have like a flat stocking on the end of your feet because you could like feel it at the edge of the bed, and then you would wake up in the
Mm.
night and you would suddenly feel the weight of the stocking, and then you knew that Santa had
Yeah.
been. And I would get my stocking, then rush through to the boys' room, and we'd open our
Mm.
stockings together and just
Because they were
think.
big, weren't they? The stockings were about 2 or 3 feet long.
Yeah, they were big stockings. And just thinking about it, how on earth did you and
Yeah.
Mom get the boys' stockings in there without any of them waking up?
That was the challenge. That was always a challenge. We had to sneak up steps very quietly and then slowly open the door and kind of stand quietly, thinking that, you know, that game where you sort of play a standoff, who's going to break first?
Yeah.
So we would stand in the doorway, just listening for movement, listening to see if anybody was like twisting around in the bed or turning the head to see if we were there or not. And if we sensed any movement, we wouldn't move. We would just stay still and then slowly back out of the room again until eventually we thought, yeah, we can get in without them knowing. But it must have been about 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
before we could do that. Must have been. And
God.
that's why the stockings were useful because in the morning when you woke up, they kept you occupied because we were still sleeping. We were still tired. Because again, we couldn't put the presents out in the present room until you'd all gone to bed.
Yeah.
So all of those presents and parcels that were arranged all over the furniture and all around the tree, they were all taken in after you'd gone to bed. Major operation doing all of that.
Where did
And
you
we had
hide
to,
them?
so we had to hide them up in the attic, on top of wardrobes, inside wardrobes, behind coats. They were everywhere. Sometimes in boxes that looked like there was something else because of the labels on the boxes, but in fact they were full of presents.
Oh, wow.
And then bit by bit, yeah, we had to bring them all down and sort them all out into which position they went into because you had the chair and each of your brothers had a different part of the big sofa, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they were all separated out to try and make sure you didn't accidentally open somebody else's present.
There would have been
Which
war.
did happen occasionally. It would have been. It would have been.
I just
But it's
remembered.
funny thinking
Sorry.
back. You know? I was going to say it's funny thinking back that you had the very nice decorated Santa stocking, but when I was younger, we had a pillowcase, which was again filled with the same things. We also had the orange, and we had the coin, and we had various little toys and sweets and things of that kind. Um, but it was never full. like your stockings were full. There were just a few things in the bottom of the pillowcase where I remember the stockings, we were literally ramming things into them because it was so full.
Yeah, they were chock full. And I actually like remembered when you were talking about where you hid the presents, the year I found the presents in the small like cupboard that opened like a wardrobe in the attic. And I
Yes.
found them at the back. And I didn't open them, but I was like poking them and like moving them around. So I did find some one year.
Yeah.
But talking about stockings, you always see in like films and stuff, especially American films, that the stockings are hanging by the fireplace. Why did we start putting
Mm.
ours on? Do lots of people put theirs on their beds, or is it just us?
I think it was a general thing. I've spoken to other people who did the same thing, and it was for the same reason. So that if the children woke up in the middle of the night, obviously excited about whether Santa had been or not, they already had something to open and have. I don't know. Did you turn the bedroom light on? I presume you did.
With the stocking, yeah. Oh no! Sometimes I wouldn't. We would in the boys' room. No, wait, did we?
I
We.
don't know.
I don't think we did.
No, I think that was part of the mystery that you were having to sort of delve into your stockings, but only from whatever light was coming through the window from outside.
Yeah.
And I don't think you did turn the lights on, so it was kind of a mystery thing at the same time, delving in to find what was in there.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember
Mm,
it being it must have been the early hours of the morning because there
yeah.
was light, but it was that light that's like a medium blue, so you can just about make
Mm,
out the shapes of things. And going through
that's it. Yeah.
my stocking in the boys' room, yeah. Wow.
Mm.
Gosh, it's nice talking about this because, I think I've forgotten it all. And then when you sit down and talk about it, it's like, wow, I had the best Christmases. Thank you for that to you and mum for like, you always made sure Christmas was amazing. And it really was because we would get all our toys and everything. And then mum would make the Christmas dinner,
Yes. Yeah.
which I'm guessing was your favorite
Yeah.
part of
Christmas
Christmas.
dinner, and then well, Christmas dinner was
Roast
always
potatoes.
wonderful, and then of course the tradition of Boxing Day, isn't it, as well, which was
Yep.
also the table being so crammed full of plates with food on that there was no space to put your own plate down. It was just absolutely full of everything you could think of by way of all the Boxing Day treats and food and pasties and pies and sausage rolls and oh, I can't remember what else was there.
My
Everything,
favorite,
everything
which
was
was
there.
cheese and pickled onions on cocktail sticks.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
just cheese and pineapple
Well,
as well. I
oh,
like the cheese and pineapple.
mm, a lot of food on that table. That reminds me of again about tradition. Didn't happen for you because we were too far away. Families moved apart more as time went on. But when I was young, Grandma still lived nearby, and it was a tradition that Grandma would come to the house on Christmas Day and help prepare the vegetables. And I've checked it with different people, and apparently it was a thing that Grandma would turn up, and because it was a special day, they would turn up wearing their best hat. And so my memory
Ooh.
of my grandma is sitting in the kitchen at the kitchen table peeling potatoes, wearing her best hat and being never taking it off, even though she was indoors, she would never take off the best hat. And then bit by bit, and she was teetotal, we would start giving her the Christmas drink, the Advocar, and bit by bit she would get more and more drunk. And it was the only day of the year that she did actually drink.
Oh wow!
So yeah, that was
Imagine
actually a
the
lovely
stories your
memory of Grand sitting
yeah.
there.
Imagine the
Mm,
stories your grandma could have told though, or probably did tell, because I'm guessing
yeah.
that she
Well,
must
she
have
was
been
actually she was actually in service. You know what I mean by in service in the big houses.
oh like one of the wait staff.
Yeah, she was in the kitchen and she was also a chambermaid as well.
Oh wow!
So she had all of those stories about working down in the kitchens and the hours that they worked and all the cleaning and scrubbing that they did. but also a Boxing Day, which is another tradition, isn't it? Boxing
Yep.
Day is now just the day after Christmas Day, but it used to actually be a day when presents were put in boxes and given out to people. That's why it was called Boxing Day, because you boxed up the presents. And it was a tradition in the posh family houses, the big houses, that Boxing Day was the day that they gave the presents to the servants.
Yep.
And my grandma remembered that, being given presents on Boxing Day.
Wow. That's cool.
It's just the day after Christmas now, isn't it? It no longer has any special meaning as such.
Yeah, it
Um,
still was special because the
with a,
family would all gather and we'd have all the food at the
yeah,
table, like you said. And so, it was
mm,
still special because we had all our toys to play with too, but it wasn't what it was originally used for.
no, no. There is another reason for people doing the boxing up as well, which is not quite as generous sounding. And apparently, if you got all your presents on Christmas Day, then the presents that you didn't like or didn't want, you were put into boxes and give them away.
Oh, wow. So that would have to be
So,
some like quite like rich children thing.
well, yeah, yeah, there must have been some decent presents given away. I would guess to other people. I can't believe they would give expensive presents to the servants.
No.
I My grandma told me that the kind of present she would get would be things like a handkerchief, because in those days everybody had a proper. This would have been a proper one, a nice cotton handkerchief with the embroidery on it to make it look nice. So I remember her talking about that. I can't remember what else she got. That was the main one I remember.
Mmm. A proper handkerchief.
But she worked in, yeah, she worked in some big houses. Yeah. From being very young, I think she started when she was 14
Oh, wow.
or earlier. Well, she might have been 12, actually. Might have been 12.
What
But
kind of
yeah, that
year
was
would that be
grandma.
in?
I think it must have been early 1900s.
Wow. How much
Yeah,
has changed since
long
then?
time ago.
Absolutely
Well,
crazy.
how much has changed in terms of the decorations and things? Because nowadays, mostly we buy the decorations that we have on the walls, and they're very nice, and some of them are fantastic. In fact, really good decorations now, the ones that light up and the little carousels or the trains that go around. But I still remember making all the decorations, actually going down to the shop and buying sheets of crepe paper to make the streamers and the paper chains.
Paper chains.
And yeah, we used to use just ordinary pieces of plain white paper. And by folding it time and time again and then cutting it out, making our own snowflakes. Remember doing that?
Yes! I remember
Making,
doing that.
yeah, making snowflakes from white paper. And
Yeah.
Chinese lanterns, the same way,
I don't
by
remember those
folding them
ones.
round. Yeah, a bit of sellotape, all the lines cut into the paper tube, and then you would bend it down, and it opened up like a lantern, and you could put a tea light inside it. Very
Oh.
dangerous. Yeah, probably wouldn't do it these days anymore, but that was
No.
it. And we used to make our own crackers as well. Crackers with just the inside of a toilet roll, the tube, and we would put some tissue paper with the sweet inside it, so it got stuck inside the tube, and then wrap the tube with wrapping paper,
Ooh.
Christmas present wrapping paper, to make it like a cracker. And then you would pull it, and whoever got the tube end would get the sweet. Didn't go bang, of course. It just went
I
and pulled
have,
apart.
but I have a story about Christmas crackers because it took me a little while to realize that Christmas crackers weren't as popular in America as they are back in the UK. I don't even know if they do them at all, to be honest. But basically, I was watching something like on my phone, and it was a news broadcast with two anchors that had been given Christmas crackers to open, and they were being told how to pull them. But you know how you pull a Christmas cracker is you hold one end and
Mm,
another person holds another end. You like pull, and whoever wins gets the toy.
yeah.
They were holding both ends and pulling it apart. So that
I suppose it's the guaranteed way to get the prize, isn't it?
exactly, you're gonna
You pull
always be
both
a
ends.
winner.
Yeah.
And that
I
really made me
learned
giggle.
quite early on that with a Christmas cracker, if you put your thumb and your finger really tightly on the end and pulled it, you almost always got the big end of the cracker.
Yeah, I don't know if you
Where
taught me
other
that.
people would just hold it loosely and pull.
Yeah, if you, so, 'cause I do that now, and I think all the boys do it too.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I think
cheat at
that was
Christmas
a
crackers.
tip that went round the family. Yeah,
Yeah,
Christmas crackers.
but for those who
Although
don't, sorry.
I was going to say some of the gifts that you got in the Christmas crackers were a bit weird, weren't they? The
Yeah,
little plastic mustaches and things like that, which they were so small they didn't even fit on your nose.
yeah. But the thing is, for those who don't know what a Christmas cracker
Mm,
is basically a tube in the middle with two bits at the end that you can pull on, and they're normally shiny. You can get really posh ones with like dark reds and golds and patterns. You can get just plain green shiny ones, and you pull the cracker with a friend, and whoever gets the tube gets the prize. But it's not just a prize in the Christmas
mm,
cracker. Christmas crackers have crowns, a really bad joke, and a prize.
yeah.
And you have to put your crown on. And we pull Christmas crackers Christmas Day and Boxing Day in our household. We did anyway. So
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
and that's where we all got the hats from, isn't it? So we all sat around and eating our meals wearing our Christmas crowns.
yep. Which is definitely something that I love doing, and I miss doing that. But another thing that we would do on Christmas
Mm,
night, I don't know if you and Mom would join in, but me and the boys would either watch like a ghost story. We could watch a horror film, but it had to be a ghost story. It wouldn't be a slash or anything
mm,
like that. It has to be a proper ghost story at Christmas. So yeah, we'd
mm.
tell ghost stories or watch ghost stories. That was always a big tradition too.
The famous one that came on nearly every year was The Signalman by Dickens, wasn't it?
Mm,
Remember that one?
no.
Where he's actually he's in the signal box and he's haunted by the idea of the train coming through and killing somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do remember.
yeah. So yeah, again back to Dickens and his contribution to Christmas. But yeah, ghost stories for some reason were definitely a part of it. Whether again that's to do with the year coming to an end and then being reborn, something to do with that kind of idea, I don't know. But it's an odd thing to think about that at the time of year when you're celebrating Christmas, ghost stories and horror stories seem to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, Dickens and the Three Spirits.
Yep.
Ghosts
Yep.
of Christmas past, present, and future. Maybe. Yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe we owe more to Dickens than I realise.
I don't know. I think so. I think like you said before, he kind of shaped what the picture of Christmas is supposed to look like. Like,
Mm,
you see those Christmas cards and the snow everywhere and people in Victorian coats and dresses ice skating on like a frozen
that's
over
right.
lake or something, stuff like that.
Mm,
And that's always, to
yeah,
me, like screams Christmas.
I
So,
think it is. It's very much that picture that he created. I'm just thinking about the Christmas tree, though, because the Christmas tree was also quite a late thing, wasn't it?
how have we not
Um,
spoken about the Christmas tree?
no, we didn't mention that. And I think, again, I'm just wrecking my brain by thinking this one through. But I think it was Prince Albert who brought the first one over from Germany. So that's Queen Victoria's reign. I'm guessing it must therefore have been somewhere around about the 1860s.
Hmm.
That would have been the first, what we think of now as the Christmas tree, the pine tree with the decorations on it. And I think since then, they've been around every single year.
Yeah.
That might have been Buckingham Palace I'm thinking about. Maybe that was where the first Christmas tree was by Prince Albert. And now you can't imagine a Christmas without a Christmas tree, can you?
Absolutely not. No, you need the Christmas tree and the wreath on the door.
Mm, yeah,
So,
yeah, that's the other one.
but am I right in
Yeah.
thinking I thought the Christmas tree, the wreath, the holly branch, all things like that, that's going back to like old UK, and they were just more
Yeah,
things
the
that were.
idea is, yeah, holly and ivy, I'm sure, go back a lot longer because they were very much UK trees and plants. And holly and the ivy and mistletoe. Mistletoe goes back all the way to the Druids, doesn't it?
Mm.
So that's a very good one. Strange, because mistletoe is extremely poisonous. So
Yeah. It's like someone evil had the
an
idea.
unusual choice.
Yeah. Like, oh, two
Mm,
lovers kissed underneath of this mistletoe, why don't you?
that's it. Yeah, it's an interesting idea because, like you say, it's not only is it poisonous, it's a parasitic plant as well.
Wow. Someone did
But,
not like
yeah,
romance.
no, but the berries were out, weren't they, in winter? So I'm sure that was part of it. And they're white berries as well, aren't they? Which is
Yeah.
unusual. The
Yeah.
holly's got the red berries. So I'm sure the holly, the ivy, the mistletoe, they are really quite ancient ideas and probably predate Christianity by quite a margin. They probably
Mm.
go all the way back. You can
Yeah.
see why, can't you? When people were wandering around the woods, the forest looking for food, and here were these strange berries in the middle of winter
Yeah.
when you wouldn't expect to see berries on the trees, which neither of which, of course, you can eat. But,
Yep.
but
Trixie
they look good.
berries.
They're
Yeah.
colourful. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
do wonder what it must have been like way back when to experience, the winter solstice. Because
yeah.
obviously, I'm just going to talk about England, for example. If you think about all the woodland and forest there would have been compared to what there
Mm.
is now, because when they must have gathered for Stonehenge, they must have come through the woodlands and forests and stuff, walking down from north of England.
They've travelled right the way down the middle of England. That's right. So they would have gone through all kinds of forested areas and deep valleys and high hills. They've,
Yeah,
they've done some travelling to get there. I can't help thinking that Stonehenge, in a way, is a strange place because it's on a low level plain where it must have been, if you were higher up on a hilltop on the moors again, I'm thinking of Yorkshire again, that up there when you can see the entire sky. Because again, we don't really see the sky with all our lights and the light pollution.
yeah,
But to see the night sky, to see the full array of the stars and the Milky Way, and then to see the sunrise the following morning and know that that was the end of winter. From now on, you're going to get more and more sunshine every day. And we can't do it now. We've lost all the skills. But they would have known that that was
yeah,
the middle of winter. And almost certainly they would have done something by way of celebrating it, possibly even a sacrifice, something of that kind. Who knows? But
yeah,
I'm sure there was this singing and dancing and celebration because they had to know that day, or at least somebody in their clan, their tribe, would have had to have known that was midwinter, because otherwise they wouldn't have known when to plant the crops and things like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It, in many ways, it must have been quite a relaxing time, though, because now with our electric light bulb, we can stay awake right through the night, can't we?
Yeah,
Where back in those days, in winter, they would have spent an awful lot of time in the house with the fire burning, and when it got dark at night, they'd go to bed and go to sleep,
yeah, nice cozy hibernation
which is
times.
something that, yeah.
I'd like that.
Whereas now we yeah, exactly.
I like sleep,
Mm.
especially cozy
But
sleep
I
like that.
sometimes think that one of the inventions that we almost should regret, the invention of the light bulb,
Yeah,
of electricity, seems like a fantastic thing, but in so many ways it changed human life completely, and not always
yeah.
for the best.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
because now
sitting around the log fire with a drink of mead, lovely.
yeah, because now with the light bulb, people work on natural hours and stuff like that, and they
Yeah,
stay up on natural hours. So it's there's a mental health crisis going on. I'm sure a lot of it is just mental illnesses, but I wonder how much is because we're just glued to our screens all the time, which isn't natural for us. It's only been
yeah.
what, like 30 years maybe that we've been doing this, maybe less.
Yeah, you have to think that the human body hasn't had time to adapt to that.
Mm,
Even the light bulb is a relatively recent thing, isn't it? So this last 100 years or so, we've completely changed how people live their lives.
yeah.
And yeah, it does make you wonder if that's not a part of the problem, just that we don't sleep properly anymore.
Yeah. This isn't very Christmassy at the moment.
No,
Now we do what we
but it
always
is in a
do.
way, because what it's saying is that that's what's so nice about Christmas, isn't it? Being around the Christmas tree and seeing the log fire burning, if you got a log fire, that is. But that being cozy with your family and just enjoying the midwinter is probably not that different to what they were doing all those years ago.
Yeah.
And breaks us away. Yeah. Again, Dickens, isn't it? That picture of the family with the goose on the table,
Yeah. Christmas
showing
goose.
that family gathering, that was the most important part of it.
Yeah.
So
We never
yeah,
had
that's
goose.
it. Yeah.
I didn't know a single person who
No,
had goose. Everyone had turkey.
that's right. Yeah.
So where did your goose
I,
come
and
from,
I don't
Dickens?
know when the turkey came across. I think, well, turkeys are American, aren't they? They started in America.
Okay.
And I think, again, I'm right in saying that there's on record that King Henry VIII had turkey.
Oh.
So the idea of turkeys being on the table as food, Christmas food, goes all the way back, therefore, to like the 1500s. So that's an old tradition, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
turkeys.
Why Dickens chose the goose, I don't know. Because I'm sure the turkeys were available.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
people in those days used to keep geese in the back garden, didn't they? So maybe
Oh,
people had
possibly.
an easier chance of getting geese. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's weird that Dickens decided that it was going to be a Christmas goose. Maybe that's what he and his family had and was part of his traditions. But animals do play quite a part in in Christmas as well in England, especially when it comes to Christianity, I suppose, because of the birth of Jesus in the barn with the animals there. And one thing that was always very common as well is that you would do a nativity play or watch a nativity play every year when you were in school. And I'm not sure if you remember, Dad, but when I did the nativity play, it was my shining moment because me and my best friend got to play the star, and we had to wear gold leotards. And we got to dance around as the star, guiding the
Mm.
three wise men to baby Jesus. So, but that's
For
another
quite some
memory.
time, that was on video somewhere, but I don't know where the video's gone now.
Maybe if I ever get like 1 million subscribers, we'll find it and I will post it.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
wow, that was a
Well, they were
long
good.
time ago.
Nativity plays were always good because the teachers worked so hard to make sure that everybody in the class had a part in the play.
Mm-hmm. Even the
And
donkeys.
sometimes the stage was so full of all the children all dressed up in their different costumes.
Yeah, yeah. That
But
was.
the bit that made me laugh most of all was that very often the young girl playing Mary, who might only have been 5 or 6, it was the way that they would sometimes carry the baby Jesus
By the leg.
by the legs or by the arm, uh, upside down.
Wow, we've gone over a lot of traditions, and there's probably more, but I think that that's all
Mm.
I can really think of for now. So, yeah, I think that's it for our Christmas traditions video. It was a bit of a ramble, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope very much that you have a wonderful Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining me and my dad to listen to our stories.
And goodbye from me, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Estelidae! Ah! I can't believe we forgot one of the biggest things about Christmas. All the food! I don't know how we could forget that. We stopped recording and then we were talking about what we wanted to eat. And I was like, how did we forget to talk about the mince pies? But we did. But we are back just for a
When you
couple of
think it's
minutes.
2 days of doing nothing but eating food.
It is!
Yeah.
It's two
When
days
you
of
think,
eating food.
and it starts on the main Christmas meal, but then, like you said, we had the massive great trifle we all had.
Christmas
I always
trifle.
remember how big that trifle dish was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was terrible for sneaking into the kitchen and pinching those wonderful slices of Christmas cake with the icing on top and the mince
Kiplings.
pies.
Oh, mince pies. I
And
love
then
mince pies.
the enormous turkey as well. Remember how big the turkey was when it came out? Because it was
Yep.
a turkey that would last for 2 or 3 days at
Yeah.
least. after Christmas Day.
And that was feeding
And
6
always that
people.
wonderful colour that Mum made it. Yeah, yeah, that's right. No,
But
wonderful food. And
mom
I
would,
usually
sorry.
got a special present, which I still had. Do you remember my special present of Turkish delight?
Yes! That's Turkish delight is a Christmas food to me because of that. You would always get Turkish delight, and I would come in and be like, "Can I have one, please?
Yeah,
Can I have one?" Because I like Turkish delight.
yeah,
But yeah, Turkish delight. We mentioned before about Terry chocolate orange in the stockings. That's a big one. But one that was
mm,
for us
yeah,
was my mum would
yeah.
make. Well, my mum would make the trifle, and she would also make these Christmas buns, like little cupcakes, and they would have the icing
Mm,
on and like a
yeah.
cherry and stuff. And she'd make it would look like a holly branch on them. Oh, they were so delicious. And I would eat the batter from in the bowl
Mm.
because that was always so tasty. I really liked
You
that.
weren't the only one. I think everyone tried to arrive in the
Everyone,
kitchen
yeah,
just at the time when the bowl was emptied.
fighting over
Yeah,
who
that
got
was
to lick the
wonderful.
spoon.
Mm. Mm. But what we remembered as well was despite all of that food, and we all ate so much, really big meal, and then in particular your brothers, but when it came to the time for the ice cream, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the giant bowl with all the different flavors of ice cream scooped into it, and then all the chocolate bars and the sprinkles and the spray cream on top of that.
Yeah.
And I remember them looking, they must have been nearly a foot high.
Yeah. When two of my brothers went in, especially, they were like fiends when it came to ice cream. You'd go in, and my parents would get
Mm,
like a big tub of ice cream. So, say it's a big tub of vanilla ice cream, freshly opened. My brothers would get in there, you'd get your turn, and there'd be like 2 scoops left. It's like, what happened
yeah.
here?
But we used to
Absolute
have the vanilla, we had strawberry, we had the Neapolitan, we
Neapolitan,
had the mint
mint.
chocolate chip.
Yep. All
Yeah,
different
all
flavors.
different flavors. Yeah.
Gosh, that's
And
another
that was at
thing.
the end of the meal.
Yeah, how overflowing the fridge and freezer were with food at
Mm,
Christmas. Food was
yeah.
everywhere. It was all over the countertops in the kitchen. It was in the like
Mm,
living room in little like
yeah.
snowman bowls and stuff. Oh, those thin mints, the mint things.
That's right.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
and big tubs of celebrations that my mom would get out and put into like the snowman holder and stuff. Oh,
In the containers, yeah.
yeah, it
And then
was.
the other container full of all the peanuts and all the mixed fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
one major thing about Christmas, especially when you're a child, but I still try and do it today, although it's much hard to find them to buy in America, is advent calendars. Chocolate advent
Yes.
calendars, where
Mm,
starting from the 1st December all the way into the 25th, and the 25th would be a bigger chocolate. You'd open your advent
mm,
calendar and have a piece of chocolate. And that,
yeah.
that,
And you
that,
had to be very disciplined not to open too many in one go.
yeah, but it was always so good when you forgot the day before, so you had 2 chocolates that day.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening, and we just wanted to come back and just tell you about the food.
The
So,
food
yes,
was good.
have a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Steady bye for real this time.